actually, the next items, 2 through 6, are pretty much the same thing. I'm going to just, yeah. Okay, and these are the grants. These are a grant application for bridges in Trenton, Livonia, Allen Park, Dearborn Heights, and Dearborn. And is anybody here on this? Just a brief. And these are the applications for the grant. Is this for 2022, these projects?
Yes,
all
they
of
are.
them? Okay.
Yes.
Maybe you can just give a little recap here. We have a lot of background, which is nice, about the program.
Well, the state of Michigan provides funding for some of our bridges. We apply for applications, and we applied for 5, and they gave us 3, is what this is.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, we have 5 grant applications here. So do they already? These are
These
just
are 21.
No, the ones that we got for 21, these are new ones for 22.
Oh, I'm sorry, these are 22.
Okay.
So these are applications for 22. So we'll be lucky if we get 3 of them. Is there 5? There's 5.
There's 5.
Yep.
And this is what OHM is helping us with? Is that right?
OHM is the consultant, yes.
All right. Okay, so you think there'll be 3 of these eventually?
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
The state is considering bundling a bridge bundling program.
Yeah.
So since these are 22, these might get lumped into that depending if they get their bridge bundling program funded.
Okay, so when would we normally hear if we get these grants? Let's say it goes the normal way and we get 3 of them possibly.
We hear them
November.
in November.
November?
Thanks, Ron.
Okay. Is anybody, Commissioner Palomero?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, 3 out of 5 if we're lucky. Who prioritizes the 3? Does the state do it, or does the county have their priorities that say, if you're going to fund any, do so in this order?
The county has their priorities that we select to do the applications with.
Have you done that yet?
That's what these are.
In the order of priority?
Yes, sir.
So
But in the application, weighing, the state of Michigan has to weigh our application against applications across the state.
I got it. So to be clear, the first priority is number 2, second number 3 on the agenda?
I do not know if these are prioritized. I'd have to go back to my list to give you the exact prioritization. But these are, so we have 5 we're trying to do next year. These are 5 we're trying to do in 2022.
Does anyone here know what the priorities are?
I can get it. Hold on.
We're all waiting with bated
I mean,
breath.
it's kind of important,
Yeah.
especially if you have a community that's in there.
Yep, definitely.
If you want to get back to us, that's fine. I don't want to take up the
I
committee.
got it for you.
Okay.
So, in order, Merriman over Tarabusi is the highest priority on this list.
Okay.
The second priority on this list is the Goddard Road. The next one over this would be the West Road, would be the first one. And then it would be number 6, and then number 5.
So in order that I've got, you've got Merriman Road, Goddard Road, West Road, and then what was the fourth one?
The fourth one would be Warren Road, the fifth
Warren,
one, and then the
okay.
sixth one would be the last one, Industry Road over Dix.
And that's the last one. Okay.
You're making out okay.
Yeah. I'm third. It's better than fifth. So I'll take it. I appreciate your candor. Thanks,
problem.
Mike.
No problem.
So if, let's say the two that we don't get, number 4 and 5, would that have a possibility of being into this new program with the bundling?
I don't think those two programs are going to coexist.
They're not, okay.
So what we did last, I wasn't, we applied for 5 bridges previous, only 3 got funded, so Wayne County is funding the other 2 completely. And one of them is, East River Road Bridge, over Hickory Canal.
Okay.
So that one, because it's low volume and, basically because it's low volume, it's not high on the MDOT list. So it's still high on our list. So we're designing that right now and hopefully be under construction later this fall.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Okay. Do we have an approval? Okay. So we have a approval and a support. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank you.
Next, item 7, approval of a 3-year sole source contract with a 1-year option to renew with Curb Pump and Supply, Inc.
Okay, thank you. And I just want to note that Commissioner Baydun's here. Oh, no, I know. The traffic is bad in the summer. Okay, is someone here for the next 2 items? Morning.
Good morning. Bill Banner from Department of Public Service Roads Division.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions on this? I have a couple questions. I noticed this is for the Airport Authority. Part of this is for the pumps at the Airport Authority.
That's correct.
What else does Wayne County do for the Airport Authority?
At this point, we're not doing much for the Airport Authority. They're pretty much self-contained. There's still 13 pump houses on their property that we maintain, along with another 150 that we maintain on the county system and the MDOT system.
Okay. So is that about the only thing we do for the Airport Authority then?
Pretty much right now, yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then I guess the difference between this item and the next item, they're both pumps. One is this Fairbanks Morse pump, and the other one's a Cascade.
They're pretty much the same because we maintain approximately 110 pump houses on the MDOT system, and those pump houses are already installed. These are the 2 companies that sell the parts that are compatible to those systems.
Okay, so they are truly a sole source in each case.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that'd be fine. Okay, so we have a motion of approval and support for both items, number 7 and 8. Any questions from board members? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank you. Next item.
Next, item 9, forwarding a report on revenue expense analysis, Commissioners, Community Parks, millage allocations.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm sure everybody looked at their areas. Does anybody have any questions? With all the money in your area? Okay, there might be questions at full board from commissioners in their area, but there's a lot of communication between parks and the commissioners, so there may not be. Okay, all right. We have a receive and file and support. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank you. Okay, next item.
Next, item E, such other matters as may be properly submitted before the committee.
Okay, under such other matters, we're going to have a short presentation on the road plan in the next 5 years. Commissioner Ware?
So, they have handouts, or since wasn't on the agenda?
No, I know. I didn't know about it. Yeah.
Thank
Oh,
you.
go, Mike, give it to him.
Yep. No, I think, I don't know what happened. Yeah,
Oh, yes, we brought a handout.
thank you.
And this is the same hand, Beverly Watts, Director of
Yeah.
DPS. It's the same handout as the presentation you're about to see.
Okay.
I'm so loud all the time.
A beautiful bridge when it's fixed up.
All bridges are beautiful when they're fixed up.
I hope Miller Bridge looks like this.
Oh, it's going to look so much
It will when
better.
we get some funding. It will.
Oh my God, and that's such a big bridge.
Chair, I'll start once they get set up.
Okay, sounds good. All right, thank you for coming. I wasn't aware that you guys were coming, so that's
you.
why we're kind of unprepared, so, but thank you.
Yes. I know Mr. Kandreevas, he was rushing before he went to Greece. He should be having a good time right now, but I know he was trying
Somewhere.
to confirm. I know you were away before he left.
And my daughter and son-in-law are in Greece, so maybe they'll hook up somewhere.
I know. He deserves it, though. He deserves it. Okay, are we ready? Okay, through the chair, again, I want to just have quick introductions of the team here. Two of the members are from HNTB and Wade Trim, who is really helping us develop our 10-year asset management plan. So before we proceed, again, I'll go through introductions. Again, I'm Beverly Watts, Director of DPS.
Lacey Hoffler, HNTB.
Michael Van Antwerp, Director of Engineering, DPS.
Dave Newmer with Wade Trim.
And Bill Bantam, the roads director, is coming up as well. Chair, as promised, I know we've been speaking about this for the last several months. One of the goals when I became director was to develop an asset management plan. When we looked around at all of our infrastructure, bridges, and roads, we were doing what we were doing. We know the PACER rating and the data we had, but you really don't have a plan. So I went on and said, we need to have someone put out an RFP that can come in here and help us develop a true asset management plan. Because I feel we were all over the place. I liken it to the mice on the wheel that's just running. Because, of course, all infrastructure, not only in the county but the state, is bad. But we need to have someone to come in and assist us in taking an inventory of all our roads and bridges, telling us the condition they're in, and also helping us develop a budget of where those dollars and how they should be spent, even though we know we don't have enough resources, but we still have to utilize the resources we have now until we get the additional funding that's needed to address all our infrastructure needs. We also wanted someone to come in and help us because I really did a lot of research on this, our team. Macomb County is the closest who've done something like this, but they didn't go far. They focused on their poor roads. I want to focus on more, because if I'm doing roads right now that is in good and fair condition, and if I leave those alone for 2 years to address only the poor roads, those fair condition, good roads are going to deteriorate quicker because we're doing no preventative maintenance. So I also wanted a company to come in and help us, tell us when many dollars, give us a plan on how we should be addressing our good and fair roads to slow down that deterioration, and then also focusing on our poor and critical.
Can I interrupt you for a second? Is this this is what we approved like 4 months ago then?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
I didn't realize this was like the final report here.
And it's not the final
not
report.
the final report,
Yes,
but
this
what
is,
you're
I call
going
it the
next.
first initial baseline, because in their contract, there's a schedule, and you'll see the schedule momentarily, but this is called the initial baseline report. They're going to be with us a long time, at least 5 years, as we developing this 10-year asset management plan. So before, on that, I'll just turn it over. I just want to give you a summary of what this is. This is the contract that you approved months ago, and this is the single most significant thing this department could have done for this county. We have been applauded by taking this on from MDOT and as well as SIMCOG. SIMCOG even allocated a grant funding automatically because we were developing an asset management fund to assist us, about $30,000 grant for this initiative. So we have a lot of interest in it from other agencies because we are the largest agency. It's going to help us with a plan. So I'm going to turn it over now to Lacey. Lacey works with HNTB, who's going to represent most of the roads, and then Davis from Wade Trim and their segment. They're a subcontract partner on this contract with HNTB, but their focus is on our bridges. So with that, I'll turn it over to Lacey, and we'll begin the brief presentation.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
And you're going to speak a little louder.
Sorry. Normally I'm too loud, so I'm dialing it back here. Thank you very much for your time. The presentation you guys have before you was given to the CEO in about 45 minutes. We're going to do an abridged version and then any questions you guys have. So if I go quickly through something, we're definitely here to answer any questions you guys have. To start off, we had two core questions to answer as a part of our baseline presentation. Where are we at now with the state of the roads and the bridges within the county? And what do we need to get to a state of the system in which all of our roads and bridges are in 90% good or fair condition? And that's comparable to what the state did when the state started doing these programs. The state is now, once they reached that, bumped the mark up a little bit, but it's very much what MDOT had to take on, 10 years or so ago. A quick snapshot as far as where you stand against your peers. Really everyone nearby, Oakland, Macomb, Wayne, all in similar conditions. The one difference being Wayne has an older inventory and a larger inventory with a lot more commerce and a lot more traffic to deal with. As far as our contract goes right now, this is the 90-day baseline report that we're presenting to you, again answering those two questions. At the end of the year this year, we will have a full 10-year report that gives you 5 years worth of projects and another 5 years what we call an illustrative, so you'd know roughly how many roads and bridges you would be doing. They aren't exactly selected projects. We're going to be working with the DPS team during that time to determine and prioritize, it's not just about the numbers, it's about the communities also. So we don't want to just close ourselves in a room and look at numbers. It's very much working with Beverly's department in determining where some of these critical areas are, where some of these key commerce areas are, and making sure that the money we do have is spent in the best way possible. Going over the bridges, David here will give you a quick presentation on the roads when I'm done with that. As far as Wayne County's bridge program goes, there's 310 bridges on the network, 231 of which are considered on the National Bridge Inventory, meaning they carry roadway traffic and they're in excess of 20 feet. The reason we're looking at all 310 is because there are some that are just under 20 feet, but they're still on major roadways. So we have to make sure that we look at everything that's critical to our communities, not just the things that are on the NBI. It's just that some of them are weighted a little differently.
And on that point, even though we're responsible, we have 310, 231 of those are required to have an inspection every 2 years.
Yes, and I do applaud Wayne County is that the other 310 are still an MDOT system. Some communities do it, MDOT does it, but not all communities do it. So you guys are making sure to report on the whole inventory.
To Mrs. Watt's point on inspection every 2 years. I know in the past was question about the 2 years inspection. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Was a question about the 2 years inspection and maintenance. Is there any mechanism be put forward to make sure the inspection and maintenance it's accurate? It's not somebody sitting in the office filling the form. Right. And then we got the situation. I think you're aware of it, I know those been addressed by you.
Right.
But I just felt everybody should to hear that is we have a new mechanism to make sure what happened in the past would not happen to the
Right.
future.
Thank you, Commissioner. You're absolutely correct. Prior to me coming in this role and kind of this bridge thing kind of landed in my lap, I always joke with everyone and said during my interview, nobody never told me about the bridges. I probably would have had a different opinion to where it was. But when I got in the seat and we realized the bridge situation, and you're correct, what I found was it appeared the inspections were occurring, but my concern was the accuracy of those inspection reports. My also concern is that we only had 2 individuals really responsible for that, for all of the bridges we were responsible for, and one of them had retired. that's not realistic to even have two people that's responsible for ensuring that 231 bridges, at that time was 232, are inspected. When you have another municipality, county in this state who only have 20 bridges and they have consultants doing that. So Wayne County, who's responsible for 231, why wouldn't we have a combination and go out and get some consultants to assist us when you have two employees responsible for that? So going into that, decision should have been made. That was a huge undertaking right there. So you basically were setting up for failure anyway. But in 2017, we realized we had a crisis as it relates to our bridges, and that's when we went out and we thanked this honorable body for allowing us to go and retain 5 to 6 consultants immediately to go out and inspect all our bridges so we would know an accurate account on the condition of those bridges. Also, it alerted MDOT and the federal government that there was a problem with some of the inspections of our bridges in Wayne County. So we all began working together. I requested that we form a committee. I don't like to say task force, but a committee made up of consultants, MDOT, with the federal government. I pledged to them in 2017 that Wayne County would put together a correction action plan, going to your point, to show them, more importantly, the condition of our bridges, the plan we have now, and a plan to ensure we'll never get in this situation again. They accepted that correction action plan. I actually told them, and Bill and I and the team put together, that we would have everything in alignment within 2 years. I was pleased to say that we did it under 2 years, almost a year, and Federal Highway forwarded a good letter to MDOT that they forwarded on to us, applauding us of really beating the time clock of that correction action plan. So we have components and internal controls in place to ensure. One of them, as long as I'm in the seat, is to ensure that we have a combination. We have some internal staff that's less than 5 people that's assisting with the bridge program, and now it's going to be reporting to Michael Van Antwerp, but we also have consultants on an as-needed basis that's going to continuously help us. We divide those bridges up. We will be in charge of some of the inspections in-house, but we also have some that we have to have outside support because we're responsible for too many bridges. And Federal Highway and even MDOT, they applauded that effort. So we have those checks and balances in right now. When we're inspecting them, we're going to make sure consultants is called the Q&A, the quality. So that's the check and balance that we kind of didn't have prior to 2017 that we have in place right now.
Excellent.
Yes.
Can I add one thing?
Yes.
Well, one thing too, Commissioner, one of the things that we put in place was, because we have 5 consultants on call now, inspecting these bridges, the same inspector is not inspecting the same bridge on the next inspection time. So one inspector is, one company is inspecting the bridge, and then when that bridge is up for additional inspection or the next inspection, another company is coming out to do this. So this gives us that quality control, quality assurance aspect of it, so we can make sure that we're checking behind ourselves to make sure that the inspections are appropriate.
I really appreciate that through the chair, because this kind of mechanism you put an end,
Yes.
I guarantee you it will increase the life expectancy.
Yes.
With good inspection and good maintenance to those bridges.
Right.
I know the past teach us some lesson,
Mm-hmm.
and I just want to mention this. I was going to wait till end of the meeting, but long as we on the subject of the bridge, I can't thank Mrs. Watts and her team and Wade Trem, because I got through the process for Waltz Bridge. I was hot and cold. I got agitated a lot because I wanted to be done yesterday, not today, because of the effect on the business, on the community,
Absolutely.
and on the neighboring community. It was regional almost. But in the end, how I assess the success of the pain we went through in the project and the work, the reaction from the community, from the business, from the people, and I think you saw some of it at the cut and ribbon, it was fantastic. Till today, the people love the bridge the way you did it, the way you went through it. So I want to thank you, and I hope to see more of that in Wayne County.
Yes.
That set the precedent, and now we go into a good thing. And I know we went through a lot of argument. I bother you more than I should, but it's me. What you see, what you get. I can't hide anything. I have to call and tell you how I feel and everything. Thank you for your patience.
Yes. Through the chair, thank you so much. And you never bother us. I think we know it comes with the territory. We're shocked when somebody says attaboy because we just getting beat up every day, but we have tough skin. So that's what we do. Two things we wanted to do. Of course, we want to get that plan in place. And going back to the staff, very good dedicated staff, in DPS, but they were overwhelmed with this bridge project. So it didn't give them opportunity to look for grants and things like that. That's why it was also so important to also get consultants to come in and assist with that. Another thing we wanted to do that wasn't happening before, we wasn't doing a good job of communicating to the communities of what our plan was. We did more of that. We went into, I call it the lion's den, and said we have to close your bridge, or we have to reduce the weight, or we have to do this. Good, better, and different, I find that, because we're taxpayers too, no matter where you live, where you are, people can understand if you just communicate. They don't understand when they see something bad, see something closed, and no one's telling them anything. So we had to change that, and we did. And so we asked them to be patient with us. We gave them a plan, give us a timeline, and we committed that we would come back and tell you every step of the way of what we were doing. And I think that helped them and helped us as they joined with us and was patient with us as we go through this very distinct process, because I told them safety is first, and it has to be. And I went in, and my first statement to them was, I'll talk 10 minutes of what didn't happen in the past, and I'd rather talk 30 minutes of where we're going from here. And then that's how we proceeded with most of the town hall meetings. And so we're still going through the process.
Yeah, there was rough one, tough.
Oh, yeah, it was
town
rough.
hall meeting, but we survived.
We were prepared with some shields at some of them. We thought tomatoes were going to be thawing, but we got through it. We got through it.
And thanks to you, this one, it's a small detail. You took a lot of heat off of me when we was in the meeting. Because everybody want the messenger's neck, they think some of them don't know how the process go and how they work.
Right.
They think the commissioner could pick up the phone and say, "Send me the crew and build the bridge." So and she, Mrs. Watt, answered the question very professionally, and I appreciate that. It was good work, team effort,
right?
And really, it's the first project I ever see everybody, the community, the business, the local government, compliment everything it's done, and now they enjoy it, and hopefully that can be the practice for next few years.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Just one question. So these 231, they're all 20 feet or more, these bridges? Okay.
Yes.
All right, go ahead.
Yes. And that's good, because we were at 232 and one fell below that, so now we're at 231, so you're spot on.
Good.
So, and those are the ones that are really required to be reported. Again, as I mentioned, we are taking into consideration more than the 231, but we took the difference between 231 and 310, we took a real look at those and saw the impact. So there's a good chunk that are railroad, those are owned by the railroad, those are the railroad's responsibility. But there are a couple, handful of 19 and a half foot, that kind of thing, that we still feel they're an impact to the community, so we're still taking a look at them. Right now, you're at roughly 70% good or fair. So the next question we answered was, how do we get to 90% good or fair? And the first thing we did is, as you will all know, you have some very large, very expensive bridges, things like Grosse and Jefferson and Dix, and then you have Miller Rotunda. So there's a lot of very large bridges on the inventory that don't represent your average run-of-the-mill bridge. So the first thing we did is we pulled those structures out of the inventory, and we said, moving forward, we recommend that there be a pot of money set aside where we start sort of a savings account, what we're going to call the Big Bridge Program. And that's something we're going to target towards moving in the future. Again, our answers here are going to be, what's it going to take to get to 90%? Our next steps are, what do we have right now and where can we squeeze the best out of it? So what I'm going to tell you here is kind of that, how do we get that high goal? Of those bridges, you've got 11 bridges that have a replacement cost that exceeds 20 million, meaning if we sit and we do nothing, we end up with more bridges like Miller Rotunda that need to be replaced now for $50 million. If we start something like a fund where we start looking ahead, we have the chance to have a little bit of money set aside when they need work before they have to be replaced. Some of them are getting older and it's going to happen. So being prepared for it allows us not to take away from the rest of the system if we start looking towards something like a savings fund for them. As far as the remainder, yep.
Thank you. You mentioned you estimate the cost $50 million, like Miller Bridge, and you want to put saving account at the present time. It might take you 10 years to accumulate some money to do something. Don't you think the cost would be more than $50 million? Is that calculated in the formula you use into the future?
So right now, the cost that we did is we looked at sort of a present day, what would each of these need in the coming 5 to 10 year span. And we're going to renew this program every 2 to 3 years, which will allow us to continuously readjust. There is some inflation that can be accounted for, but the goal is some of them don't need $50 million. Some of them need more like $5 million, $10 million, where if we can save over the next 2-3 years, it gives an opportunity. And to answer your question, we will account for inflation once we understand at what time they can fall, and then we'll project forward to see what their future cost is. Really, this is about getting that fund started and starting to look towards getting something dedicated towards these big assets.
Good idea. Thank you.
Okay, sure. The remainder of the program, very good news. The DPS is already committed $10 million a year towards the bridge program. You've heard about these bridges that are being awarded through MDOT. That right there is a testament to the recovery that was done with the inspection reports, because MDOT takes a very close look, and that was the first time that Wayne County had been awarded bridges in a very long time. That program only has $48 million to spread, the MDOT program. They only have $48 million to spread across the entire state, and they get over $300 million worth of applications. So the fact that Wayne County was awarded $5 million is a true testament to the fact that the documentation was there, the foresight was there, and the planning was there, because they don't award them if you don't have a good plan in place as far as those structures are concerned. The good news is that starting with that $10 million seed and some of the money that have come in from MDOT, the remainder of those structures, once you separate those high value assets and start accounting for them a little bit separately, we can get to 90% good or fair just by adding a couple $1 million, whether it be through the MDOT program or future availability of funds every few years. So starting at a $10 million base and working our way up to about a $20 million base over the course of 10 years, will get you 90% good or fair of your inventory of bridges. It just takes a lot of planning and a lot of dedication, which the ball has already started.
Just a question on that. With future availability of funds, what are you thinking? What are the future? I mean, what pots are you talking about that would be? I mean, are we? Because I assume eventually we're going to have some kind of money plan here.
Yes.
So are you just like leaving that up on what kind of decision that would be for future availability?
I mean, what pot, or like Act 51 funding?
Is it Act 51
Yes,
or is
Act
it going to be
51.
a bond or?
No, it's right now, with the total plan, until we get to the point of, we know now, when we get to the end of the presentation, we kind of need, you're looking at roughly $3 billion or whatever,
Right.
what we need to have our bridges and roads in 90%, good condition. So those decisions will have to be made on whether you would want to bond or whatever. We'll work closely with the CEO's office and the CFO on those decisions. But having said that, even before you go out to, and the CFO and I, interim CFO, we've had conversation, even to bond, you want to make sure that you even have the wherewithal to do it. We wouldn't bond, say, for example, for $3 billion if you don't have the in-house skill staff or you don't have the skilled trades here in Michigan to do the work. Because as you know, it's a lot of infrastructure that's going on throughout this state, and then you're also using a lot of skilled trades from Ohio and Wisconsin, Illinois that's already in this state that's supporting that. So it's a lot that goes on to that decision of what you're going to decide, what you're going to do, whether you're going to bond. You're going to also make sure you have the workforce that can do the work if you are granted that bond.
All right. Go ahead.
So as far as the bridge plan goes, the next steps include starting that big bridge plan. which, like I said, it will take some time to start that money. It's just a matter of trying to look forward to a savings. Each one of those bridges, we are recommending a detailed scoping, which I know is part of the inspection cycles. It's just a more detailed evaluation to determine an individual plan for each one of those big bridges, so we can really get ahead of the ball. The other thing for the annual bridge program is starting to define the investment again. So we're starting at that $10 million plus what MDOT has been awarding. And we've already begun that process here. And we will start with the selection of projects moving forward, which I know the DPS team has already started, and we're going to work hand in hand just to refine that plan. From here, I'll hand it over to David, who's going to quickly cover the road program.
Great, thank you. Okay, very similar to what you just saw with the bridges, we've got the road inventory here. That shows you what you've got as far as road mileage goes and what your conditions are. The total miles in the county is about 1,670. We're looking at 864 miles total. That's your national, your federal aid eligible system. And a small amount of non-federal aid roads that are major roads that aren't subdivision roads. I know that sounds like a kind of a clunky description, but that's kind of how we ended up with those some extra roads in there. So looking at those 864 roads, right now we've got about just below 7% that are in good condition, 34% that are in fair condition, and just under 59% that are in poor condition of those major roads. That, like I said, that doesn't include the subdivision roads. That's kind of a snapshot of where you are right now. Looking ahead, once we get the road ratings.
On the subdivision road, some of them, it's not county's responsibility.
Township roads? Township
No, cities. Township, some of them, it's ours.
Okay, yes, the roads I'm talking about, they are Wayne County Township subdivision roads that are your responsibility or under your jurisdiction. So we don't have any city roads included at all.
So the township doesn't contribute to those roads at all? Only county responsibility?
I wouldn't say wouldn't contribute, but I mean the funding that we receive from MDOT, the Act 51 funding, does not come to cover the townships. As you're aware, that's why even though it doesn't come and say, they give it to us for primary roads and our county roads, not the subdivisions. But it doesn't say that we're prohibited from using some of those funds for the township. The county decided, and this county executive decided to continue, as you know, the program, the Township Initiative Program. To allocate some of that funding to the 9 townships that we have for road improvement. And we're glad to say he's continuing on the program because we do see the need and we recognize there's a need for funding in the subdivisions, even though MDOT gives us the funding for primary roads and county roads only. That's the primary function of the Act 51 funding.
So technically it's acceptable even if it was not for...
Absolutely,
okay.
Absolutely.
Well, that's good news if he's going to continue that program next year. Budgets are coming up.
Well, I didn't say that. I said since 2015. I didn't say that.
Keep that thought. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. All right, so after we get all the road condition information put into the program, we take a look at what your annual investment is and what you're spending now and how you're investing into your system. You've got about $34,500,000 that you're investing currently into your system. We calculate what we call an SQI, that's Standard Quality Index, or Surface Quality Index, excuse me. That tells us from a 1 to 10 scale how well you're doing, your system's doing as a whole. And I mentioned just a minute ago that you're at about 59% poor roads. Your surface quality index right now is 3.37. So you're at a 3.5 essentially out of 10, and that seems about right if you've got 60% of your roads that are in poor condition. If we look at continuing the current investment that you have in the way that you're currently working on your roads, we project in 10 years that your surface quality index will decline from 3.37 to 2.75. That's probably not much of a difference that you would see actually driving down the road because, poor roads are poor roads are poor roads, right? But it does indicate to us that there's a lack of funding, that the way that the funds are being applied and the amount of money that you have, the resources that you have, just aren't keeping up with the deterioration that you have on the roads today, and that we project into the future. The second question that we were asked to answer, as Lisa mentioned earlier, was what's it going to take to get to the county's aspirational goal? And that goal was to have 90% of the roads in good or fair condition by 2029. In order to do that, we're starting at a surface quality index of 3.37. We would be improving that average quality index to just over 7.5. The annual investment that would need to be made for that is $309 million per year.
309 million.
I'm sorry, why can't I not speak this morning? Beverly, I can't speak this morning.
I'm using it as a lottery number, though. Say it one more time. I'm a winner.
Yeah,
9 million.
309 million.
Next slide.
I'm not going to say the number anymore because it's a bad number.
$309 million.
Every single year.
Every
Yeah.
single year.
See, that number's so bad I can't even say it.
That's for 10 years.
That's every year.
Every year. Oh, that's every year. Every year. That's every year.
That's-
If we
that's
want
every
to,
year.
if we want to have our roads in the condition of 90%,
Right.
To fair.
which is good and fair, yes.
fair.
Right.
All right.
We also took a look at some other scenarios here. If we extended the program by a couple of years, because currently you've already got some commitments through your Federal Aid Committee for what you're going to do for the next 2 years. And so in the analysis, really, you only got 8 years of the higher level funding because you've got 2 years at your lower level. So if we gave you a full 10 years at the higher funding, it would drop down to $265 million, lots of money. Anyway.
It's just a lot of money.
Yeah.
Next slide.
It's more money than is realistic.
It's just a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
Right. Going ahead and moving into the next portions of the project, now that we've got the baseline established and we know what it takes to, where you're at today and where it would take to make your goal, we're going to be sitting down and looking at what actual funding levels the county can come up with. I think you've got their aspirational goal and where you're at today is kind of bookends for your program. We're going to end up somewhere in the middle, I would assume. And we're going to be looking at what levels of investment the county can make. And then we're going to be looking at what are the best ways to spend that money so that you get the best bang for your buck. And what we're talking about is what the director mentioned earlier. We're really looking towards trying to maintain and keep those good roads in good condition rather than let them deteriorate. As a philosophy of road maintenance, it's less expensive and more efficient to keep good roads good than it is to fix bad roads and let the other ones deteriorate. It's a better way to spend your money. So we're going to be looking at ways to economize and spend, even with the levels of funding that you have today. One thing that we did notice as we went through the analysis is your DPS and your staff, with the projects they do and the heavy maintenance that they're doing a great job with the limited resources that they have. And many times they're out, applying an overlay to a road that probably should be reconstructed. It's maybe not the right fix to do at the right time, but it's all you have to do in order to keep the road passable so people can drive on it. So we're really looking at ways to improve your funding so we can get those levels of investment correct and advance your system.
And on that point, that's going to be the next major step, going back to your original statement, is finding that funding. We've put the scope out there and the charge to them, and now they're working to give us the answer. So now we have to determine to see what level, what method. They've given us that number of what we really have to invest yearly. So now those decisions have to be made. Going back to the bridge, one point I want to let you know that on that portion, when you said bonding for the bridges, the governor and the team that's been they've been working on, I know some of you have probably heard of the bridge bundling concept, and MDOT currently has an RFP out on the street. What that would do for the 83 agencies, instead of now they have the My Bridge Fund, which allocate us to $5.6 million, really have a pot of a little under $50 million in it. What they would do with this new bridge bundling program, they would kind of do away with that fund and give all 83 counties an option to opt in or opt out on this bridge bundling. For For those counties that decide not to opt in, for the My Bridge Fund, they're only going to leave about $5 million in that pot. So imagine if we were awarded $5 million for 3 bridges, now the ones who don't want to opt in, once they go through this project process of bridge bundling, everybody would just be competing for $5 million. The way they're telling us right now is what they would do is select some of the large complex bridges, take some of the bridges from some of the agencies. We would still own it, and we have to maintain it, but they recognize that the infrastructure is old, and a lot of counties just like us, we don't have the funding for these large complex bridges to repair them. So what they would do, MDOT would take them on collectively and kind of bond as a state, these bridges, and that will be good. Because we're responsible for 331 bridges, really Wayne County would be crazy not to opt in, because being the largest and responsible for most bridges, it really will help us as we try to get our bridges repaired and even get it in a good condition. So as they go through that process, I wanted to make you aware that's another option. But we will continue on our plan until we make sure their plan has come to fruition. And I think their goal is by the end of the year or something like that. They're going through the RFP process right now.
Yeah, selection should be out in a few
Yeah,
weeks.
so that's another option that's probably going to help us with the bridge and the funding for that.
This would be communities could opt out?
Only counties.
The counties, okay.
Only
That makes
counties.
sense, okay.
Yeah, it's all locals.
Okay.
Right.
All right. Okay. Commissioner Baydun.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just had a question. Maybe this is not in your alley to the experts here, but just sitting here and listening to this presentation with all these millions needed to be invested for the next 10 years to become 90%. And I don't know if this is within your jurisdiction as a county. Obviously, it's not. This is something that has to be taken on a state level. But your input as a county officials and engineers would be valuable to the state. We're still not addressing one of the main reasons for these crumbling roads and infrastructures and the bridges, which is the weight limits that we have on these huge trucks. I mean, we're talking about repairing these roads for the next 10 years. Are they taking into consideration that we're going to continue the same way of doing business in terms of the trucks, the weight limits? I mean, we have one of the heaviest truck weights in the country. Am I correct?
What I can say to that point, this is an asset management plan, but you're absolutely correct. I can also tell you what dialogue and meetings I've had with the MDOT director and other agencies, my colleagues, and representatives from the governor's administration, that they are having that conversation as the governor has tasked her team with trying to get funding. And as you know, the plan she's put forward, they're including everything on the table as the dialogue. I encourage them to not come to the table with things off the table like, no, we won't consider toll booths, or no, we won't consider come to the table with everything on the table. And so they have pledged they're going to do that and research all that, because all the agencies want everyone to put anything. If we're going to have a global plan, you're absolutely right. Investing the money into the roads, but not changing some of the formulas, like how do, we enforce the weight restriction is coming in. You look at I-75 coming out of Ohio, that's one of the major truck traffic there. You look at Wayne County, where we have a lot of incinerators. We have trash coming in from Canada daily down on Kings Road, as Commissioner Palomero would know, going to that landfill. They're making 15 trips in, so they got to come back out. 15 trips out, that's 30 times per day. You have that heavy truckload. That's why it's hard for us to go down there and redo Kings Road, because I go in there and put $2 or $3 million in there. It's going to be tore up, and it's going to have a life of a year or two with that truck traffic. So we have to have that global conversation. You're absolutely right. I've been told they are. They're just trying to piecemeal and get your plans in place first, and then have that dialogue where everyone can say, yes, we need to improve our enforcement, and we need to consider everything, because Wyoming, that, we have the industrial. We did the emergency repair last year. It wasn't even potholes. That was craters. That wasn't even a road anymore. And look at the traffic there. Normally, I could get at least a 5 to 10 year life. I'm going to be lucky if we get a 4-year life out of that road before we're back out there, because the truck traffic and the lack of enforcement of someone sitting there monitoring it. Our weightmasters do the best they can, but we only have 3 for this whole county. So I agree with you, but I'm told those conversations are occurring.
And just a point there, I've heard that MDOT's position on truckloads is that it really doesn't affect roads, it affects bridges, though, as far as their heavy loads. But I don't know if that's
To that point,
My mind, sometimes a bridge is a road, so.
Yeah.
to that point, when after they built that Waltz Bridge, and the question was, are we going to have sign for weight limit? They said no weight limit on the bridge, same as the road. Whatever bad for the road, they build the bridges now better than the before. But this issue have a multiple effect. Now, if they're going to go to less weight, they're going to have more trucks. And more trucks, it affect a lot of community where they go and they throw. You want a more traffic or less traffic? Then now the question is to have a pipeline and to have increase the water shipping and receiving to use that. And Detroit doesn't have a port that equipped for that, to reduce the truck number we have because the people send them through the water. So it's a multiple effect on the road, and you mentioned it right. We need to put everything on the table and have a serious discussion and how can we do. And another thing, we need to look into the material we use for the roads, because my understanding, and I didn't have a professional opinion, is Europe, they use in better material, especially in Germany, on their road than the one we have.
Yeah, but
So
they
it's
use
a
the
big
same material
discussion.
in Ohio, in Windsor, Canada. I believe they use the same material. It's just a lack of investment in our roads here in Michigan. But you're absolutely right. You know, investing these billions of dollars for the next 10 years, and then after that for the next 20 years, we still have the same cause, one of the causes of the deteriorating infrastructure and roads and the bridges. And I agree with you. I know this is not something that the county can decide, but your input is very valuable, speaking on behalf of the largest county in the state. You know, we have, the bridges located next to Canada with all the truck traffic, 4.5 million people living in this area, the most populous in the county. I believe your input and, collective input from the county to the state will have an impact.
Thank you.
Okay.
Do they have a warranty on their roads in Ohio?
Standard construction methods always include a warranty. Usually the wear and tear of warranty on a road you can determine pretty quickly if it's constructed poorly or not. So our roads, and it's industry standard to have a warranty on the construction.
What happens if they mess up? Have
Then-
they ever, and we caught them?
I don't know the historical data, but in my past, I would say, 2% of all construction jobs will have a warranty claim.
I haven't heard of any, so that's why.
That's an initiative. That's an initiative that the state has taken upon recently too. Is that they realized that there wasn't necessarily the best enforcement. A lot of times the warranties apply to new roadways too, and the way that the county has stretched the dollars in the last, few years that we have on record was to do a lot of what they call the mill and fills, which is keeping the community safe and getting rid of a lot of the potholes, but it's not a brand new roadway. The underlying road is still there. So a lot of these warranty things are usually more applicable to when you're redoing a new road. So like Sibley, which just had a brand new section put in off of Telegraph. I live down there, so that's the first thing that pops into my head, of course. But that sort of thing is where you'll find some of those being more applicable.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
It's a good job. Keep doing that in that area. So.
Wait a minute.
I support you. We're
Okay, are you?
Yes, so finally, again, just to reiterate that now the phase we're in now is where HNTB and Wade Trim is kind of sitting down working with Maintenance Division and Engineering as we plug in now to identify the plan going forward to do preventative maintenance and also having a plan of what we should be doing and allocate the funding while we are having that at the global level of we want to get our roads in 90% condition. This is what it's going to cost. How do we get there with the funding that we don't have and options like bonding and all of that. As we continue to go through this process, I'd like to come back quarterly and provide this everybody with an update. If you have any questions as we're going through this process, before we get back with our update, feel free to contact me, let Andy know, and we'll be glad to provide you an update before we come back with our quarterly update.
And just a side note, maybe he can let me know next time that we're having this presentation, because there might be other commissioners that are interested in coming to listen
Great.
to the progress reports.
Great.
Commissioner Baydun.
Yeah, I just have a question. I know Michael informed us there's a meeting on the 27th, I believe,
FAC committee?
FAC. And really, I'm going to be honest with you, there's so far about 15 or 20 people from the South End coming to that meeting.
Yes.
They're going to bring pictures of Miller Road.
Yes.
And it's a war zone.
Yes.
And I understand they had some issues with the material that they used over the years. But our expectation is to elevate the significance of fixing Miller Road, to a higher level. And I understand there's a tracer report, and that's how you go by. Right.
The pacer rating. To your point, we encourage, and if they do, I really hope they really do. We are encouraging and we are engaging and sending it out, and hope everyone comes to that meeting. It's open to everyone, and we encourage them to bring photos. We know the condition, like I tell everyone, with the districts we have and the staff we have. There is not a road in Wayne County that we don't know about and the condition about our DPS staff. However, we want to make sure we're communicating. We want the public to come out too, and other agencies to communicate. That's going to start that dialogue, and that's really what we want, because really we can have a plan here, we can talk to MDOT, but it's going to take all of us, and it's going to take all of us to put everything in the table and have that open dialogue. So we don't run from 1,000 people coming, and we don't want tomatoes thrown at us, but photos, we welcome that, because at least everybody's engaged in the solution. And that's what we want.
And by the way, I want to applaud your staff, Michael and Bill. They did a great job in the town hall meeting that we had in Dearborn. It was very informative.
Yes.
And the main topic of the town hall was Miller
Yes.
Road. And obviously, they understand the bridge. It's a bigger problem, but Miller Road needs immediate attention like yesterday.
Absolutely.
And I don't, Michael told me that it's on the schedule in 2021, I believe you mentioned, or...
We'd probably start design in 2021. Well, it depends on how much money we get. It's 14th on the list.
And the people, I can tell you, they can't wait 2 years over there.
And what we try to do in those scenarios, because we do know with road construction and reconstruct, it's a longer process, because you have to have a design, and you have to bid off construction, and then you're dealing with a pacer rating, FAC committee, a lot of other members on there. Most people think we have the dominant. We just a couple voices on that board. But in the interim, that's why we have road maintenance, and this is where this plan is going to help us, because we want to slow down for those roads getting in those conditions before we can address it, because it's costing us 3-4 times more money. But specifically to Miller, what we've had, because Michael and Bill came back and we've been having dialogue, we're trying to see on the road maintenance side what and anything could be done to help until we get to the reconstruct.
That was my question, because you did a good job on Outer Drive north
Yes.
of Michigan.
Yes.
It's beautiful.
Yes.
And I asked the gentleman at the town hall meeting if we can do the same kind of repair, and Bill suggested that it's not possible because of the how bad Miller Road is.
Right, and what he did, and he's correct, but what he did also is have his engineering team to go back and take a second look, and we'll say what can be done. So that's what we're waiting on, and hopefully, Bill, I think we're going to have that answer in about a week.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Commissioner Vargo.
Is Schaefer still on the plans for this year in Detroit? Please?
Don't take away my binder.
That binder's growing.
It wasn't on the list that was published, but
Schaefer in between I-75 and Dix?
yes.
Yes, it is on the list.
I-75 and Bassett,
Fourth to,
4th Street to Bassett.
city limits.
We've been waiting for that
Brian, is that
since
stretch on the list?
I-75.
You help plan, it's on the list?
We're trying to get it to purchasing, however, at this late of the season, I'm not sure what we're going to get constructed this year.
Well, that's the one I-75 to Dix, right?
No.
No, this is,
That's the second Schaefer.
this is in the city of Detroit in, it's about 2 miles.
So if we don't have it for this year, you say possibility, you say through purchasing?
That's county.
We're trying to get it to purchasing
Okay.
in the next few weeks.
Commissioner, what we'll do is, I'm going to dialogue with them and see after, we'll give you an update no later than tomorrow, to see where they're at in purchasing, and give you a timeline, if we go through the
Expecting it
process.
this year.
Absolutely, absolutely.
They really are, because they held off on it because I-75.
I remember that one, because we had to wait till MDOT was complete with 75.
Right.
Right, and that pushed us behind. So now that they're complete with 75, so let me have a meeting with Michael and Ron right after this, and we'll make sure we give you an update.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll ask in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Again.
You'll get a response.
Thank you, Madam
assure
Chair.
you.
Michael, that small section on Oakman Boulevard between Michigan and Ford Road, that's county, that small pocket. It's pretty bad over there. Is it on the list to be reconstructed?
I don't know these streets that well. I really.
You live in Dearborn.
I
just
do.
kidding.
I do.
I'm gonna take you on a tour. I know exactly what house you live
I
in.
have to get back to you. I don't know it that well. I really don't.
Remember, he's been
I
away in
mean,
California, how many years?
You know, and
10, 15?
20 years.
20
and
years.
I was a Grosse Pointer for the 20 years before that. So I'll get back to you on that.
Okay, thanks.
Stop in for coffee.
Right. Okay, well,
Coffee
thank
and
you.
dialogue.
Any other commissioners have a question before this group leaves? Thank you very much for the update. That's
Thank you.
very helpful. Okay. Yeah. Mr. Clerk.
Item E, such other matters as may be properly submitted before the committee.
Okay, are there any other matters with the commissioners? Okay, next item.
Item F, public comments.
Is there anyone from the public that would like to address the commission? Anyone from the public? Okay, next item.
Item G, adjournment.
Okay,